Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I have a very special video for you today because recently I was approached by Capcom, kind of like a vampire emerging from the shadows of an alleyway, with the offer of reviewing Resident Evil 4's brand new remake. And after considering carefully how much blood I'd need for this contract, I said, yes please, yes! Because this is one of my favourite video games, and say it with me kids, of all time, so of course I jumped at the opportunity. But I should state for the record here, they did not pay me for my opinions here. I am going to give a rather glowing review of this remake because I definitely enjoyed it. There's the cliff notes for you in case you didn't want to watch the rest of this video. But there are a few caveats to the experience that may hamper your enjoyment just a little bit. So if you want to find out what I thought about this, well, gather round my little canados as we have a chat. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and this is our Resident Evil 4 Remake review. Oh, and just before we begin here, there was some issues with recording. Capcom has given us some B-roll to use for this review. Totally up to them. So you're going to see possibly some repeated footage throughout this. I'm just saying, I've completed this bloody game, all right? I just wasn't allowed to capture much of it. Now, to say that it was a brave move by Capcom to announce a remake of one of their best-selling and best-reviewed properties is kind of like saying that Albert Wesker might not be the best person to trust with the keys to your gaff, aka a massive understatement. To many, myself included, Resident Evil 4 stands as a monument to action horror, and so to learn that this game was going to receive the same treatment as Resident Evil 2 and RE3 did a few years ago was both an exciting prospect and a rather worrying one. I mean, after all, how do you improve on brilliance? How do you make that lightning in a bottle strike twice? I swear I'm mixing up my metaphors there, but you know what I mean. But thankfully, it is with a sigh of relief that I can report that Resident Evil 4's remake is both a brilliant updating of an all-timer classic, but also it actually significantly improves on the originals in some aspects, albeit it is an experience that has some foibles that you're just going to have to learn to live with. You see, if there's one thing that the RE4 remake absolutely nails, it is the atmosphere. You see, while the original game was coated in stylistically grainy filters in order to give it the impression of a world drained of humanity, here Capcom has smothered the experience in deep contrast and rich colours. In moments, you'll sweep through ruined ballrooms that feature collapsed marble floors and into thick woods that are weighed heavy with thick fog and dim distant lights. And then you'll witness glistening and dank cave faces before ploughing into cramped underground facilities that are overstuffed with rusted and inactive research equipment. In short, if variety is the spice of life, then RE4's remake is basically rubbing sriracha seasoning right into your eyeballs. Now, it's up for debate if this adds or detracts from the overall horror of the piece, seeing as the rich colours are far more comforting than the depressing palette of the original, but there is no denying that this game is visually stunning across the board. I will note, however, that I did come across some weird frame rate stutters when it came to in-game cutscenes whenever it featured large open bodies of water, and I played the game on both the max settings, because I've got a pretty high-powered PC right here, and also the recommended settings, and it still gave the same issue. I'm not sure if they're going to patch this out. Hopefully they will do upon launch. Oh, and also the facial capture tech that was on full and rather emotive display from RE2 and 3's remake isn't actually as impressive here, likely because of the size of the game demanding resources and time be spent elsewhere, but you know what, this isn't exactly a title that will ever be called ugly. In fact, the real ugly on display here comes from the updated enemy designs, which are also crusted in filth and grime that being grabbed by even one of them is likely to make you want to shower afterwards. And yes, before you ask, the regenerators are just as scary, just as weird, and now they can run. Cool. Other redesigns of enemies have helped tie things into a more common visual narrative, with the larger brutish enemies now sporting handmade and much more inferior miniguns, and the soldiers in general are carrying cobbled-together weaponry over high-tech gadgets. And what it does is it conveys this message that this is an army that is nearly ready to take over the world rather than a fully mobilized force. Yet for all of the positive reworkings of classic enemy designs, the dogs have absolutely been done dirty here. I mean, they look utterly cartoonish with their big comedy fangs that kind of look like Steven Tyler cosplaying as Austin Powers. If there was a surefire way to spoil that amazing hedge maze sequence in this game, it was to have these monsters leap forth from the bushes to the tune of Lisa Needs Braces' dental plan. Thankfully, no matter the enemy, or indeed what it looks like, Leon puts the S in Ass Kicker Kennedy is a true force to be reckoned with. No longer is this the rookie showing up for orientation only to send his teammates to the obituary section, as here we take the reins of a more confident efficient and competent agent. Now this translates into Leon arriving in this remake with a bag of new tricks, most of which center around his trusty blade. With a new parry mechanic in place, Leon is now able to deflect arrows and projectiles out of midair and block enemy attacks, whilst also opening them up to a melee counter which deals massive damage and knocks foes into their mates, which can help with crowd control. And yes, the German suplex is back, and I'm so glad to see it. It's an excellent addition, which means that even when you're entirely overwhelmed with just a few well-timed parries, you can free up space in no time. Hell, you can even parry a chainsaw if you're so inclined. I wouldn't recommend it. Plus, without spoiling the story, it's a mechanic that's referenced several times in the narrative and has a rather pleasing payoff come your encounter with a figure from Leon's past. Adding to this is a reworking of the ground stomp that appeared in Resi 5 onwards, allowing players to quickly dispatch downed enemies or those about to transform into terrifying beasts with just a tap of a button. Yet before you think these changes will make the moment-to-moment gameplay too easy, the knife now comes with a durability meter that depletes each time that you attack or parry, and at double rate if you get grabbed by an enemy and use it to escape. And once it's broken, well, you lose a lot of your defensive opportunities. What this creates is a sense of tension through item management, as here you have a tool that is incredibly versatile yet needs careful maintenance in order to help you move through heavy action scenes unscathed. Thankfully, it, alongside all of the weapons that you can pick up, locate, trade for, and rob off of fallen enemies, can be upgraded to last longer and hit harder. And you know what? You'll need to flex a few of those little grey cells in your brain if you fancy all of the upgrades here, as many of the best treasures can only be found through puzzle solving and backtracking. Something that the remake handles with surprising flair, as each time that you return to an old area, you'll find something new standing in your way. And while the puzzles may never take you longer than a few minutes to solve, it's great to see the team leaning into them with reworked answers and a greater sense of variety. And speaking of big hits, the action present in this game, God, it is liquid smooth and constantly evolving thanks to environmental changes, and it never lets up for even a moment. Just when you think you've mastered popping kneecaps and swiftly booting enemies in the face, the game then throws shield-wielding Ganados or remixes famous encounters to now include more goons to hamper your progress. And again, without spoiling things, there was an encounter with a rather, let's just say, angry lad here, and my stomach absolutely dropped because I thought that it was just going to be one-on-one, but all of a sudden, 10 goons ascended from the sides, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. Yet even here, with knuckles white from gripping the controller so tightly, I was enthralled by how smoothly Leon controlled and how quickly that he could react to situations. Yet the Ganados aren't the only mob in town now, as with Ashley and Luis in tow at different points in the game, Leon will have either a second source of damage in order to help out in a pinch, or an ally capable of helping solve various puzzles. Now, I'll be honest with you, it was with bated breath that I approached the Ashley sections, seeing as every single time I think about it, there's like an echoing Leon going around my head, and I could do without that. But thankfully, these sections here proved to be some of my favourite parts of the entire remake experience. Because thankfully, a great deal of work has been done to make these sections in the remake feel less like babysitting, and instead offers the player a new system of telling Ashley to either stay close to you in order to quickly motor through crowds, or drop back from you, which means that she can avoid some enemy attacks from the front, but comes at the risk of being easier to grab by enemies outside of Leon's protection. Add in the fact that the game gives a generous struggle window for Ashley against her assailants, and we have a mechanic that never feels overbearing, which is a rather wise choice, seeing as escort missions are basically a bane for many gamers already, and Capcom really needs you to want to save Ashley, seeing as she gets kidnapped multiple times across the narrative. But strangely though, while Ashley is now a joy to be around, it does seem that some other characters have been rather relegated to the sidelines, especially Salazar and Sadler, which they kind of just boil down to, I'll arrive to steal the thing that you desperately need to solve this puzzle or move through the plot, I'll spout a few lines about chosen one, sacrificial lambs, or some other bollocks like that, and then I'll tell you you're gonna die before putting the same 10 goons you've already faced millions of times before, and then walking away. Just stay and get the job done, mate. Just shoot him dead. Bang, bang, bang. Done. Game over. Probably wouldn't be a fun experience, but you know what I mean. It smacks of ancient game design, and the team had ample opportunity to restructure events or give meaning to their villains, especially seeing as they were so keen to rewrite other Resi lore in order to fit this new continuity. Oh yeah, and while they were at it, they could have probably asked Sadler, Krauser, and especially Ada's voice actors to, I don't know, maybe redo their lines, because seriously, these sound like first takes. I know that the Resident Evil series is known for its, less than stellar voice acting, but here we just get kind of phoned in and emotionless reads. I mean, seriously, Ada is by far the worst. She has all the passion of a brick, and that smouldering connection that she had with Leon in the original game, well, it's now replaced by somebody reading out an Excel spreadsheet. Krauser too suffers here as his discount Triple H at the end of his lines definitely take away from the tortured figure that the remake presents him as. Now overall it's not a huge issue as the action more than carries things, but it is a shame that things aren't as polished as the visuals or the gunplay. What is less excusable though are the new charms that can be unlocked in the game through completing certain challenges, each of which adds a crafting bonus or discount rate when buying or upgrading items from everyone's favourite merchant. Now while these sound like a brilliant way to reward the player whilst also allowing them to customize their experience slightly, there's one major thing hampering the enjoyment of collecting them. For you see, against all conventional wisdom, Capcom has done away with some tired old video game tropes only to replace them by another, because the charms are unlocked through RNG methods. Cool. I mean, it's a good thing that your game is good enough to warrant multiple playthroughs. Indeed, as soon as I finished the first run of this game, I booted it back up straight away, so that is a testament to how good this game actually is. But my god, the RNG charm element can get in the bin. Thankfully, the activities and side missions that you do to earn these extra rewards are usually really engaging, tasking the players to return to old areas now with new encounters or scour the map looking for hidden items. But maybe just don't approach this with 100% completion in mind, because the RNG element here could potentially really kick your ass. Also dampening the experience slightly is the removal of a trope that I honestly never thought I'd miss, and this comes in the form or absence of QTEs. Now let's be honest, QuickTime events are a truly despised video game mechanic, and you're probably sitting there thinking, Jules, why are you lamenting their loss in this remake? Well, the problem is that in the original, these QuickTime events were actually tied to cinematic scenarios, and now that the remake has removed them entirely, they just took those sections out as well. It's like, we're missing entire bits of battles sometimes. Gone are the epic boulder runs, as are the climactic knife battles and desperate escapes from imminent drownings, and in their place are either weaker facsimiles or simply nothing, leaving the player waiting for an exclamation point that never arrives. Still, for all of its strange stumbles, Resident Evil 4's remake is an easy recommendation. It is a marked departure from Resident Evil 2 and 3's remakes, as the original Resident Evil 4 was from the rest of the franchise. But it is a bold action horror game that revels in spectacle, and on this front, the remake surpasses its forebear, as with every violent explosion or huge battle, I could feel my face ache from smiling so bloody much. Classic sequences are delivered with precision and care, and even the weaker aspects of the original have been dialed up and reworked for this remake, meaning that across the board, the energy level all the way through is just superb. There's never a dull moment, there's never any downtime, and that is brilliant when it comes to this experience. It's a remake that justifies its existence solely on its gameplay updates, and one would hope that things like the knife counter make their way into future games as well. This is a true celebration of what came before, but also gives Capcom the foundation to build things up for future projects or other remakes, because what they have built here is fascinating from start to finish. I cannot recommend this game enough, and while I know that there will be some purists out there that will lament the QTEs, some boss reworkings, and maybe some just elements that are changed that don't quite hit with the same ring that the original did, there is no doubt that this game is anything other than a true gem. Something that many would say that they would buy for a high price. So there we go, that has been my thoughts on the Resident Evil 4 remake. I hope that you enjoyed that, my friends, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. Are you interested in this game? Are you going to be pre-ordering it or buying it on day one? Let us know down below. And if you want to catch up with me on the social medias in between these 2 points, then you can do so by going over to Instagram, where it's @RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friends. Big love to you all, take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.